It just all of a sudden, just the rain come real hard, and then the wind, then the bus started shaking right then.
Don Robinson is counting his blessings tonight. He was inside his bus early this morning when heavy winds hit, turning his life and his bus onto its side with a tag-along camper on top of him.
I was warming up my school bus to run my route this morning, and it started shaking and all that kind of stuff. And next thing I know, I thought, well, this bus is fixing to roll over.
And that's just what it did. Robinson says he wasn't buckled up yet because he wasn't ready to go. So he just rode the roll, hanging on for dear life. And the bus not only flipped over onto its side, but also turned around.
My grandson lives with me, and he come and helped me get out the rooftop and everything, pulled me out.
Robinson lost a couple of horses and some mature trees on his Donderosa farm. Along Old Highway 25 near his home, the storm downed both trees and power lines, and a barn just down the road lost some of its roof. Robinson knows this story could have had a much different ending.
Just part of life, I guess. That's what we had to deal with. So I just thank the good Lord that I'm still here.
Still here with quite a tale to tell.
I sat down with State Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn. She says they just finished their statewide tour of town halls where they heard from community members on what they want from education funding. She says there was a lot of consistency from east to west, which is really going to help them prioritize their needs moving forward. As state leaders brainstorm on how to change Tennessee's education funding formula, community members share one common request: more money.
I don't care what you want to do with your funding system. If you don't have enough money, the pie has to, just that small pie, you're going to cut it up. It's still going to be not enough.
A report from the Education Law Center gives Tennessee a failing grade on education funding, ranked 44th in the nation. Another report from the Beacon Center calls the funding formula complicated and outdated, as it uses 45 different criteria to determine how much money a school can get. I asked Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn about these consistent low rankings.
Tennessee is one of the lowest funded states as far as money per student. What is your response to that?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of those reports, and they all generally put Tennessee in that same block in terms of kind of state rankings. I think what we're looking to do is saying, let's figure out what it is we want. Before we start comparing, let's figure out what a new formula could be, what that can fund, and then what we are building together. And from there, we can see what funding might look like.
Commissioner Schwinn says the new funding formula is not yet complete, but the goal is to move from a resource-based funding to student-based. They're looking at what other states are doing that have recently changed to a student-based approach, like Texas and Maryland.
We haven't talked about numbers publicly. That's certainly a decision for the governor and the General Assembly.
The Department of Education can make recommendations, but the final formula and funding amounts will come from state legislators in the new year. A common theme that came out of these town hall meetings was equity. People want to ensure that schools are funded equally and that districts have their individual needs met, as rural and urban districts have vastly different needs.
This woman says many rehab facilities are denying her a place to stay just because she has a service dog. In Kentucky, she says that's against the law. Raina Jones is 44 years old and is in a wheelchair due to a genetic disorder. She has a service dog named T who assists with medical alerts, helps her stand up, and so much more.
We're being mistreated and our civil rights are being violated.
Raina needed to find new housing and wanted to stay in a rehab facility for a few weeks. At first, Bradford Heights in Hopkinsville didn't give her any issues about staying there. Raina says she told them she had a service dog.
They had said, yes, come, we're going to admit you. I had mentioned to them that I had a service dog. I mentioned to them also that I have this wheelchair, and they didn't ask any questions, so I figured we were good.
That same day, when she went to Bradford Heights in person, they told her animals were not allowed. According to Kentucky Statute 258.500, persons with assistance dogs are not to be denied accommodations.
Relatively immediately told me that I would have to leave the building because I have a service animal.
I reached out to Bradford Heights and asked what its policy was. Administrators told me they had no comment and hung up the phone. Raina turned herself into Adult Protective Services, where she says 30 others also denied her service.
I am in an environment that is not safe for somebody at my level of debility. And of course, I was hoping to get rehabilitation and get stronger.
Raina is sharing her story in hopes that the community understands this isn't just happening to her.
I have actually helped other service dog handlers in this situation. So I know it's not just me.
For now, Raina is staying in a hotel until she can find proper accommodations.
Along the East Bank planned project for Nashville over by Nissan Stadium, where Fox 17 News' Justin McFarland has been doing a little bit of digging into what could be going into this part of town.
I'll tell you what, like when you look at East Bank now, of course you see Nissan Stadium, right? But you know, a lot of people think of the old Shoney's over there, which is since closed, but they may know it because of all the parking lots that are over there too. Well, some new renderings are changing all of that. And I'll tell you what, in just a couple of years' time, Justin, we may not recognize East Bank as we know it.
No, we may not. What you were just looking at, though, is important. That was the scrapyard and recycling plant that is over there right next to Nissan Stadium. And at this point, there's no plans to move that. But that neighborhood around it could change in ways you can't even imagine yet. Listen, everyone, I have been following the development of Nissan Stadium since it broke ground in the late 90s. I know I don't look that old, but I am. We are talking about a huge development that could be happening here. When they built Nissan Stadium right back here, oh, excuse me, I'm backwards here, right back over here, they didn't think it would ever come to a place where it would have to foster its own neighborhood, essentially. But that's exactly what they're working on now. As you see it here in its current form, and over here you see it in its possible future form. And yes, those are high-rises, hotels, and all kinds of things that are popping up around Nissan Stadium. Now, they're warning you that this is not the actual plan, just a concept, the kind of thing that it could come along here as they continue to develop the East Bank. So what about reaction? Here's this one longtime East Nashville resident responding to the future.
But you know what? If it's going to be looking at all that dense, I'm out of here. Just like I've not been to the Gulch, I've not been to 12 South, I won't go, I'd love to go, but it's now, just like so many other places, become either for tourists who are willing to put up with all of the traffic and the no parking and the whatever, or those who live in the neighborhood and who can walk or bike.
So there's one reaction. Again, the Planning Commission responded to her saying that what you see back here is not the final word. This is just a concept as they're responding to a lot of the things that the community wants. The problem is the community wants a lot of things.